Welcome to the Frequency Labyrinth. I am Adrienne McDonald, your host. This podcast is for you if you're done with surface level self-help and ready for something deeper and actually transformative. Around here, we work with ancient wisdom, human design, gene keys, and shamanic practices, not as knowledge to collect, but as tools to live by. This isn't about one size fits all. It's about learning to work with your energy, your design, and your life. This is about integration and embodiment. We go deep here with ancient wisdom, practical integration, so that you can develop ironclad self-trust. Let's get into it. Hello, beautiful humans, and welcome back. Today we are going to be diving into the energy mix of October. I'll be going through the human design gates that the sun will be transiting through, as well as a little bit of the cosmic astrology mix. And I'm going to give you some things to watch for and how to work with this energy by profile. So, welcome to October. Pat yourself on the back for surviving eclipse season. This year, and especially last month with eclipse season, I feel like it's like a little bit like a Doctor Who regeneration. And if you know the series, I'm a fan, you know the drill. The old Doctor reaches some sort of critical point. The cells rearrange, light blazes, and out steps the same person, but also not the same person because they're completely transformed. Messy, awkward, sometimes heartbreaking, depending on how attached you were to the old Doctor. But always, like, what is needed in the moment as we see when the episodes unfold after. That's the vibe right now. Eclipse season shook the ground, cracked open what couldn't be held any longer, reset the field, if you will. And I don't think that October comes in like blazing. I think it comes in with like a quieter type of power, kind of power, one that composts stuff into wisdom. Like we have a lot of compost right now. So we can have roots that endure, and I think that throughout the month there'll be more whispers through intuition before the mind catches up. This seems to be an ongoing theme, but I think it's going to be really much more pronounced in October. It's the month of integration where the regeneration process deepens. And I feel like people are in different stages of this. You might be the doctor that's just like feeling like it's about to happen. You might be the doctor that you're like in mid-blaze. You might be the doctor that steps out of the fog machine and is looking in the mirror going, okay, this is who I am now. You know, it's an individual's journey. So let's start with the gates that the sun is going to be transiting through in October. So coming off September, we are still in gate 18, which is the gate of correction, which the gene keys are shadow judgment, gift, integrity, city, perfection. And it's still tweaking with refinement, you know. Correction isn't about self-criticism or nitpicking. It's about aligning with integrity after the eclipse seasons, like shakeups, right? It's like what feels true to you. Think of it as pruning, removing what no longer serves you so the whole system can thrive. You might have brought some new stuff in, right? I think that a tip here would be notice where judgment can really be softened into discernment towards yourself and towards others. Then October 3rd, we move into gate 48, which is the gate of depth. And the gene keys, shadow is inadequacy, the gift is resourcefulness, and the city is wisdom. And depth sometimes triggers the fear of not enough. But wisdom of this gate is that true resourcefulness doesn't come from knowing everything or having everything. It comes from using what you already carry. And you probably have more wisdom than you give yourself credit for. And October invites you to trust the well within, like especially when self-doubt tries to like take the mic away. Also, I feel like another one of the gifts of this gate is realizing that you don't have to do it alone, that there is community. And that could be family, that could be friends, but that could be support from your spiritual support team, right? But you don't want to, a practical tip is, not seeking outside validation, Use what you know in small, grounded ways. And I would really encourage you to start really building out and tapping into your spiritual support team. So then we move into gate 57 on October 9th, which is the gate of intuitive clarity. And the gene key's shadow is unease, the gift is intuition, and the city is clarity. And this gate tunes the body like a tuning fork. Like unease can rise, that subtle sense that, something's off before your mind knows why. Also, the opposite of that, this feels good, but it doesn't make sense. And the gift is trusting those quiet whispers and letting them guide your choices. And so a practical tip is to pay attention to your nervous system, goosebumps, gut flips, sudden tension, like they're signals, not necessarily noise. I'm going to put a caveat on here. If you do not have a well-regulated nervous system, this is an opportunity to really lean into working on that, especially in this season, like the fall season. With breath work or acupuncture or Reiki or a number of spiritual practices. Because it's really hard to hear your intuition and trust your intuition. In trusting your intuition, the mind wants data, right? And if you have a dysregulated nervous system, it's really hard to tell what's the difference between fear and a whisper of guidance. So then we move into gate 32 on October 14th. This is the gate of continuity. The gene key shadow is failure, and the gift is preservation, and the city is veneration. And continuity is the theme of legacy, right? What endures over time. And this transit may bring up fears of failure, but also the gift of tending to what truly gives us vitality or gives us life force. It's something that we want to nurture, to endure through time. And October really asks you what to separate from what deserves nurturing versus what's reached its natural end. I think another thing that this gate does is it really highlights the need to honor the seasons and the rhythms of life. It's like there's a lot of people that their circles are changing, right? Some people are in your life for a season, some people are in your life for a reason, and some people are like lifelong, right? But we all have to honor that separation and even death is a type of, it's one of the cycles, right? It's one of the cycles. So prolonging that doesn't do anybody any good. And taking stock in that is quite helpful. So take stock of commitments, the ones that are worth carrying forward and the ones that are ready to be released. And then October 20th, we are moving into the gate of 50, and it's the gate of values. And the shadow is corruption, and the gift is equilibrium, and the city is harmony. And if you have not really taken a look at what your values are in the last couple of years, I would invite you to revisit those during this time. You know, values are more than just morals, they're about balance, and this gate really exposes where the system has slipped into corruption, where restoration is possible. It reminds us that true integrity is found within your own being, right? I think that a practical tip here is check your boundaries. Like, where are you holding too much? Where reciprocity is not living in your life? Where can you bring things back into balance? When this gate happens, there's one of the more challenging astrological aspects, which I'll get into in a minute, that happens. So it's going to pull focus. Then on October 26th, we move into gate 28, which is the game player. I always laugh at this particular gate's name. And the gene key is purposelessness. Ugh, say that 3 times fast. The gift is totality, and the city is immortality. And this is the existential crisis, Kate. I think sometimes it asks that question of, is the game I'm playing worth it? Because without meaning, risk feels empty. And without devotion, risk becomes the aliveness itself, right? And October invites you to challenge yourself to take risks for what matters most, but not for distraction. So a lot of thrill seekers, they do it for the dopamine high, right? That's not what this gate's about. It's in the shadow, I think these are people that are like, what's the point of doing anything, right? It's that victim mentality. So I think that the tip here is, if you feel like what's the point, or that you're grinding against something that you quote unquote can't win, you have to anchor back into your life to something that gives you life force back, that gives you vitality. All right, then we round out the month, October 31st, with gate 44, which is the gate of alertness. And the shadow is interference. The gift is teamwork, and the city is synarchy. And we close out the month with a bit of pattern recognition. Like at the shadow, interference really brings us into entanglements. This really gives me the feeling of like being caught up in kudzu vines for some reason. But the gift is teamwork, right? And sometimes when we're having a challenge, we don't want to like ask for help. But when you plug into that collective intelligence, that can give you different solutions that you had not thought about. And if you're coming up against a pattern or a challenge that you have had for a while and you can't seem to get out of it, I think this would be a great opportunity to reach out for some help or ask some people for different opinions. I also think that this is another time where people are going to be evaluating their collaborations. Like, are they working still? Are they moving in the direction that I want them to move into? I think that's going to be happening around this time as well. All right, let's move into the cosmic mix of October. I have pulled some dates that I found interesting in the astrological aspect outlook. So October 6th, Mercury enters Scorpio, and we're going to have an Aries full moon. And this is a little intense because, you know, Aries is an intense sign. Scorpio is an intense sign. Mercury's move into Scorpio sort of deepens conversations. The truth is cutting through that surface chatter. And words are probably going to be a little more weighty. And then we have the full moon, which is all about independence and courage. And together, I think that in the aftermath of eclipse season and the composting of that, it's okay, where am I asked to bring more courage into my life? And listening to those intuitive hits first before you go blazing the trail. So, you probably get some insight into naming the thing that you've been circling around but avoiding, because with Mercury moving in Scorpio with the Aries Full Moon, that just sort of cuts through the BS. October 8th is Venus sextiling Jupiter, and this caught my eye because it's like a welcome breath of sweetness. And we all could use some sweetness. This aspect opens the channels of generosity and connection and grace, and it's a reminder that expansion doesn't always have to come through like strife. Sometimes stuff that's great will come to us through ease. And I feel like so many of us forget that. So lean into the relationships or projects that naturally feel abundant and supportive during this time. Then October 13th, Venus is going to enter into Libra, and Pluto is going to go direct. And I feel like, in the Libra, the balance becomes non-negotiable. Venus in Libra really highlights reciprocity and beauty in relationships, while Pluto staging direct is, I feel like that's some buried truths are going to be coming out in the open, so especially in the collective. So that'll be interesting to see what comes out then. So don't resist the recalibration. It's just part of the process. October 17th, Sun is squaring Jupiter. The temptation to go bigger, louder, faster might be happening around this time, but this is like a little bit of a reality check, right? Ground yourself, anchor yourself. Sometimes it's not bigger, better, faster. It's like just tweaking and refinement. Okay. So maybe during that transit, prune one thing that's growing past its usefulness and see what that space gives you in terms of expansion. Now, October 20th is probably the most challenging aspect that I saw come through or caught my eye, which is Mercury conjuncts Mars. And this is like words on fire. This is hot, fast energy. This is like brilliant for decisive truth-telling if you're, feeling it, but it's risky if you're speaking from reactivity and not from discernment, right? This is also when the sun is transiting through values. So just be mindful. Pause before you hit the send button on the email or, text or, are you saying something to clarify, or are you just saying it to be hurtful? Like, just watch yourself there. Then on October 21st, we had the Libra New Moon, which is resetting agreements and the balance and reciprocity. And I think that's going to be a really nice new moon. And then the next day, the sun enters into Scorpio, opening the season of endings, composting into new beginnings. So I feel like for the new moon in Libra, you really want to zero down into one new seed to plant under that lunation. Not many, just one, and like really nurture it. Because I think that coming off of eclipse season and moving through the month with the gates that we have, you might be bouncing around to what that seed needs to be. And you may think that you already have it. And then by the time you get there on the 21st, it will likely have changed, or at least morphed in some way. Because I feel like we're still getting ahas from the eclipse season. And then on October 23rd, Mercury enters into Sagittarius, and, the mind is going to go leaping wide and visionary and bold, and that's the type of energy that's going to be coming forward. This transit really opens fresh perspectives, but it can gloss over the details. And as much as I love to gloss over the details, we do need structure. So let yourself dream bigger, but write down the structure that you really need to hold it. And throughout the latter part of October, we're building to a Grand Water Trine. And that will be present throughout, I believe, Scorpio season. And I feel like we're going to be in a season of wave after wave after wave of intuitive, emotional, and spiritual wisdom that just washes over us. And I feel like prepping for this and feeling into it, this isn't about drowning in feelings. It's about swimming in deep waters. The universe is asking us and inviting us in to swim in deep waters that support you. So as we are moving through later October and into November, and I'll talk probably more about this in November or later in the month, carve out time for reflection, ritual, or creativity, especially in the later part of October, because the current can carry you farther if you're entering it with intentionality instead of thrashing about. So let's go into things to watch for by profile. 1-3s. October puts your foundations under the microscope. The Aries Full Moon may spotlight some cracks in that structure, but these are pointing you to refinement. And Libra season asks you to balance in what you study with taking some courageous action. Scorpio season's going to insist you embody it through trial and error. And you got to remember that stumbling aren't failures, they're data. They're something to compost that deepens your wisdom. So something you might ask yourself is, how can I let both what I've studied and what I've lived shaped me into this new version of the doctor that you're becoming? 1-4s, knowledge needs a home. And this month you may feel which relationships are worth sharing it with. Libra season asks for reciprocity. Does the community around you honor the depth that you're bringing? Because there's a lot of people that are changing circles. I keep saying that, but it's true. Scorpio season strips away the veneer. It's going to show you what bonds are really going to persevere and which ones the season is ended. You have to let them go. And who is really ready to hold the wisdom that you've been carrying. Because you've not been sure. I think there's going to be more opportunities for you to share with people that are ready in towards the end of this year, like from now until the end of the year. 2-4s. Your rhythm of retreat and return is highlighted right now. The Aries full moon you may feel pressure to push yourself out of the cave too soon. But clarity always begins in solitude for you. So by the Libra New Moon, you'll feel which bonds bring balance. And Scorpio season is going to ask you to trust your instincts about where you're drained and where you're nourished. So where does the stillness make your presence sharper? And what's coming out of that? And who do you want to share it with? 2-5s, October is I feel like it's about refining your influence. Like Libra energy may have people projecting expectations on you just a little bit more than normal. But I feel like Scorpio season later on in the month is going to really sharpen what's not yours to carry. And the regeneration here means separating what's yours from what belongs to others. And that's probably shifted over the last several months. So when you step forward from this clarity, people might be more receptive. That's always the dance with the 5, right? Is making sure that you're solving the problems you want to solve for the people that you want to solve them for. So how can you ensure when you step forward, it's with your truth and not someone else's burden? 3 5s. Hello, fellow 3 5s out there. Meaning is made in the fire. The Aries Full Moon is, I feel like, going to ask for a next level of courage. And we have to remember that every trial, every failure, that's just fuel, because that's just stuff for us. It's data to put back in the tank to tweak things. And Pluto's direct turn reveals what's already composted. And Scorpio season later on is going to call for bigger acts of courage to extract wisdom from the mess. And as always, people will project onto us. But I think that there's a message here in, instead of trying to tell people things, maybe you living it might be a better way of getting your message across. So embodying some sort of wisdom instead of trying to verbalize it. And a question you might ask yourself is, what feels like nurturing what matters versus another distraction? Because I think projection is going to be strong this month. So look out for that. 3 6. You're living a little bit of a paradox this month. Experiment and perspective all at once. And it really depends on what season of life you're in with your 6. The Aries full moon may stir a little bit of restlessness. There might be some give and take there as we move through Libra season, but I think Scorpio season really reframes some mistakes as building blocks. And the Grand Water Trine at the end of the month really helps you see that you're really going to have some wisdom to give to other people that are going through it over the next month or so, especially. And I also feel like I think that there might the restlessness might be coming from, you thought you were focusing on a couple of experiments that looked really attractive at the beginning, late August, early September, and now it's like, I don't want to do this anymore. I gotta pivot here. So look into that. Just don't be forcing stuff to be forcing stuff if your heart's not in it. If you lean into your strategy and authority. 4 6s. Community is your classroom this month. As I've said multiple times throughout this podcast episode, circles are changing. Libra energy is really showing you where reciprocity is missing. And with Pluto direct in Scorpio season right around the corner, this is really, I think, going to test which ties have true depth. Because by month end, the scaffolding you're going to know what is holding and what is not holding. And you're going to have a better idea of the direction you want to go. And you've got this space of wanting to share. Again, it depends on what area of life your 6 is. And you got to be in the right circles to do that. And maybe you've been thinking about doing some things that your current circles, it's just too much constraint. So seek out new people. 4 1s. Your curiosity sharpens through connection, but not all connections are equal. And the Aries full moon may scatter you just a little bit. just a little bit. And I think that by the time Scorpio season pulls forward, you're going to have a better idea what you want to dive in deep with for the rest of the year. You know, October's lesson is to place your insights into relationships that can sustain them. And I feel like there's going to be a new curiosity that's going to come up with opportunities for maybe expanding your circles, investigating a different circle, and also not just with people. I think that there's something here for ones around maybe a new study. Like there's something that you want to get into that has piqued your interest that you haven't had the energy to do maybe. And now that we're in that season of composting, you're looking around going, you know what, that looks kind of cool. Let me go investigate that. So pull the thread on something new and see where that leads. And then we have 5 wands. October, test your leadership. This full moon in Aries might stir some urgency, but the deeper work is refinement, especially under Libra's call for a more balanced approach. And this is when you might have to slow the roll on the 5 and lean into your 1. Because I feel like there may be some old projections that come back, or they're circling back around. But your test this month is to hold steady. It's like, no, we're done with that, right? When clarity meets courage, your influence is much more well received by the people that actually need it and the people that want it, right? So what truth are you holding with steadiness for the right people? What problem are you working on that feels like it's that's giving you life instead of draining the life out of you? 5 twos, your medicine this month is retreat. Again, the Aries full moon might tempt you to rush forward, but you really need some retreat time. You need to clear the entanglements first, and then later in the month, when you return from solitude, you're going to have done something with the compost, and it's going to carry more weight because it's going to be coming from a rooted place and not a reactive place. So how can you work with some alone time to refine some and really do something with that compost so that carries clarity instead of like just throwing something out there like hitting spaghetti against the wall? 6 twos, patience is your anchor this month. Aries energy may pull at your impatience. You know it does. It's what Aries does. But the Libra balance and the Scorpio depth are going to ask you to focus on continuity. It's like, okay, let's just not be reactive. Let's create some space here. Let's pull on a thread and see where your intuition leads you, right? Again, it depends on what stage of the 6 you're at. Are you still in that experiment phase? Are you still in the, okay, I'm going to observe phase? Or are you in the teacher phase, right? The role model phase. You don't have to rush this. It doesn't matter what phase you're in. You don't have to rush this. This is nurturing, and what wisdom is being formed in this quiet space without demanding proof. Like this again is your intuition is going to tell you more first. The data comes later. And then 6 threes. October highlights your paradox of the trials in the now and the perspective in the long arc. And you know, I think that for 6 threes, I wonder if the full moon in Aries is going to give you a little bit more zip to do some experiments you've been thinking about but haven't had the courage to go for. And I feel like you're gonna, by the end of the month, the Scorpio season may be like, hey, let's go a little deeper into that. Let's go a little deeper into that. And by the water, like when we get into the water trine area, especially as we move through Scorpio season, I do think that you're going to be looking back on September and early part of October and go, gosh, all right, yes, I have some things to share, some wisdom to give people now. You just have to trust the process. You know you're going to stumble. It's okay. That's how you learn. Now, no matter what your profile is in October, it all carries the same underlying current, regeneration. The eclipse season broke down what couldn't last. This month it composts the rubble into roots. Now, whether you're in study or retreat or risk or leadership, the invitation is the same. Trust the quieter wisdom that's rising beneath the noise. The intuition before logic, the depth over speed, the devotion, the nurturing to what actually can endure and what you want to endure. So the driving question for October is, how can I allow my intuition to be the doorway into that next version of myself? And as you move through October, remember, regeneration isn't about rushing forward. It's about trusting that wisdom. Trusting that wisdom. Now, if you want to explore some other things, I've written a new post on Substack called Doing the Work Isn't Just About You. This is a reminder that our inner work always ripples out into our relationships and our communities and the collective field. It's very Libra season-like. And I'll put a link into the show notes where you can read that. And if you're ready to go deeper into your own design, your human design energetic blueprint is a good place to start. Think of it as your personal field guide, a map of how your energy works, where your wisdom lives, where your gifts are, and how to stop draining yourself in patterns that aren't yours. You can order that as well. That link will also be in the show notes. I will be back soon with more, but until then, may you trust your intuition as the doorway into that next version of yourself. And as always, remember to find beauty every day and seek the magic in the mundane. Thanks for tuning in today. As always, take what resonates, leave the rest. Let whatever landed move through you in whatever way it needs to or wants to. And also, if you want to explore more, you'll find more information in the show notes. If this episode stirred something in you, please share it out or leave a quick review. It helps so much and I really appreciate it. And remember, this work is about integration and it always starts with self-trust.